talking tonight to Mark. Well, tonight here on the East Coast, Marcus is in Australia right now. It's morning there. But for those of you who are not familiar with Marcus K, he's a musician who has made a living traveling the world for 30 plus years as a busker. He shares his music with strangers every day as he performs on the streets, and he hops from country to country. I've been following him for a number of years, and his videos that he posts on YouTube and Facebook are amazing. I share them as often as I can, and we get a lot of great feedback because they're pretty remarkable. And he uses his music as a powerful tool to connect with people and touch their lives throughout the world. And now he's in Australia. So it's good to have Marcus with us today and tonight. So it's good to finally talk to you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your welcome, and it's great to connect with you. And looking forward to having the chat.
So you were in Japan.
Yes.
And the one video you released was with the hip hop dancers in Japan dancing to you as you played the blues on the streets.
Yes, that was in Yokohama. In fact, we probably produced about 7 videos that month, but it depends on how Facebook acts to see what you get presented. That was a really good. It's one of those gems you get on the street. I just find a place that I feel comfortable, and I start playing, and then every now and again something really magical happens. Like this guy was standing really close, and he was moving just a little bit, and then he started, suddenly he couldn't resist, and he started moving a lot. So then I said, can we do a video together? So I'll play something a bit funky and see what happens. And that was completely unprepared and unrehearsed. And it's one of those, I'm very proud of what happened. And Marga got it all on video, so very happy with that video.
Yeah, when I shared that video, people were going out of their minds. It was just incredible to see that. I got so many comments, and there were so many things posted about that when it came out. To watch you sitting there playing, and then the hip hop dancers were there in Japan. It's like it was great.
Yeah.
So
it's a good example of what can happen when you just go out on the street and unprepared. You get some really good surprises and presents sometimes.
How long were you in Japan?
1 month.
1 month.
And it's a beautiful country, but it's not easy for busking. So we did 2 concerts. People responded, like, oh, can you come and play here? And so they were really good. But playing on the street is not as easy as in Europe or in Australia. Seems good as well. So it was a bit of a challenge.
Because at one point you said on one of the videos, you said the police were chasing you.
Nobody chased me.
Do you need permits? When you do this, do you need permits, or you just find a place? Is it all preset, or you just find a place and settle down and start doing this? How does it work when you?
We do everything totally on intuition. So wherever we end up in the morning, we just see if there's a place that I like where I can play. And in the past, I sometimes looked online to see what the rules might be, and it just distracts me, to be honest. So more often than not, I just find a place that I like, and quite often I just get to play, as long as I want. Every now and again, somebody calls the police for some reason. Maybe they don't like the music, and then the police come because they have to. But with a bit of luck, I might have already played for an hour or so. So I'm still happy with that.
How many countries have you performed in so far?
Oh, I'd have to count them, but it's probably more than 30. I'm just guessing. It depends on whether it might be more than that, actually. I mean, Europe's got quite a few to start off with. And obviously I played in Europe more than anything, but we've done India, Japan, South Korea, quite a few of the southern states, Turkey. Right now, I can't think of any others, and then all the countries in Europe.
So do you have a set amount of time for each country? Do you figure out how long, like in Australia, for example, how long will you be in Australia, and then where do you go after that?
Because Australia it's expensive to fly here. When we were in South Korea, we realized that from Japan, there was a cheap flight to Australia. So we wanted to make use of that option, that possibility. And so we want to make use of our time here as much as possible. We've got a lot of fans from Australia who've been following us for a long time. So I think will be the full 3 months that the visa allows. And then we might even continue to New Zealand. And if it allows, we could even skip back to Australia, but I think we'll probably can continue them because we've got some things cooking in Europe as well. So, yeah. And we're thinking of possibly going back via Hawaii and the States.
Do you travel
complete circle
year long, or do you stay? Where's your home base? Do you have a home base where you stay? Or
I have a tax base in the UK, and I have an olive grove in Spain, where we spent the 2 lockdown periods just camping on our land.
Wow.
Apart from that, we travel all the time. So we don't plan anything unless we have to. I mean, if you fly somewhere, then obviously you've got to plan it to make sure you get a reasonable price. But other than that, in Europe, we have a van. We just travel around and find a place to play, and then afterwards find a place to park and sleep, and we just continue like that.
Yeah, that was my next question. So you're playing on the streets, you're as a busker playing for money, and then at night you have to have some place to sleep. So how does that work? Where do you sleep? Where, as far as food goes, how do you support all of that? I was curious because I was talking to somebody about this the other day. And I said, I'll find out, because he had the same questions.
Yeah. It's people in general are very generous, actually. And in Europe, it's easy. With the van we have there, the main cost is the diesel. So we try and not do too many kilometers from one place to the other. And we have enough money from the tips that people give us to pay for the petrol and pay for the food, and we just find a place to park and sleep. Here in Australia, the hotel costs are very high. We wanted to get a second-hand van we could sleep in and then sell it again after 3 months. But Japan and South Korea were very expensive. We didn't make enough money, so we kind of didn't have enough. We don't have the money now to buy and sell a van that's any use. So it's a bit of a struggle to keep going with the hotel costs being so high.
Can you talk about what you did with when you went to Pushkar, India? Can you talk about what you did with the Cobra Gypsies? I found that fascinating. Yes. When I read that and I checked out the video the other day, and I was talking to people about that, I just found that whole thing fascinating. The story about the Cobra Gypsies. I told my son about that tonight.
Yeah, it was a beautiful experience. I went to India, first of all, to Goa, and then somebody saw me playing on the beach there, and he was a doctor, and he said, you have to play at the wedding of my sister in Rajasthan. So Rajasthan is a very beautiful area, so I thought I'm going to have to do that. And so from there, it was close to Pushkar where the wedding was, and the wedding was an amazing experience, completely out of this world. That's a long story. And then in Pushkar, realized that's where the Cobra Gypsies were. So I'd seen some videos of them before, and I actually met them in the street. They came up and wanted to do a henna tattoo. So, and then we brought them some supplies, and they invited us to their home in the desert. And so it was all very, very innocent, to be honest. It was another one of those magical happenstances.
Yeah, for people that don't know, what are they called? The Kalbalgayas? The Kalbalgaya Gypsies. And they're called the Cobra Gypsies because they used to carry the men would carry cobras in baskets from door to door, while the women of the tribe danced for alms. But since since 1972, when they passed the Wildlife Act, they have been unable to use the snakes, and now they just mostly perform. But when you perform with them, it was a pretty amazing video.
Yeah, they were beautiful people. The husband that you see in the video, he still does the cobra thing on the street in Pushkar. So he does it anyway. He's got the small cobras.
Yeah.
They're not dangerous at all. They don't have teeth or anything. So, but yeah, it still happens.
Yeah, they said that video was so popular, it's been viewed over 4 million times on YouTube.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I posted on my Facebook page a few days ago, and it's been getting shares and hits ever since then because it's pretty remarkable. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for spreading the word. It's it's a huge help. Social media for us is it definitely helps a lot because we also sell CDs and a USB stick on Bandcamp. So we're starting to do quite well. It's a nice extra bit of income that helps with the costs. Selling CDs and USB. Yeah.
You have music on Bandcamp.
Yes.
How can people get your music? How can people? Because when I went up there to check out, it's euros, isn't it? So how does that?
Yeah, but you can change the currency, I think. But even then, I think you can change the currency. If you can't, then you just have to make sure that you know what it costs in dollar. And we sell all around the world, so it's not a problem. We sell
that was very
people
cool.
all around the world. Yeah.
I want to bring that up so people could check that out.
Yeah. And we're selling, at least 1 or 2 things every 1 or 2 days. The USB stick is the most popular one now, actually, with all my music, 11 albums and 21 singles. So people are buying that more than anything now.
Isn't it true that you put out a release to beat out Eric Clapton and you were so proud of that?
Oh, and that was with my trio.
Yeah.
I think it was 2007. I had an album out and I topped the charts above the latest album of Eric Clapton. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised about that.
Yeah,
it didn't mean much. It was just a small chart in the UK, to be honest, the blues chart in the UK. But still, it's not. It sounds good, doesn't it?
It sounds good though, because I was reading this, and it said in 2002 you started the trio Giles, Giles.
Yeah.
You recorded 4 acclaimed albums with that trio, and then it says you even topped Eric Clapton's new release with with the Blue Funk album in Blues Matters list of best new blues albums. You topped Clapton, so that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah, we used to play, especially the UK, but we also did quite a lot in Scandinavia, Norway, and France. But it's very difficult to keep a band going, to be honest, unless you're like top level. It's almost impossible to keep a band going and actually making a living of that. So it's easier on the street, strangely enough.
What is the most interesting country you've performed at? I mean, I saw you playing in Ireland. That must have been something. I liked watching the art when you were in Ireland. And I love watching when you were in Korea.
Yes. Well, those are more exotic, to be honest. So if you're talking about interesting, then it's got to be India, South Korea, and Japan. But the experience of playing on the street, just from a musical point of view, then Ireland was amazing. And funnily enough, Germany is really responsive to my music. And so every year we do 2 or 3 months, sometimes more in Germany in the summertime. It's not the most interesting possibly, although it's a beautiful country and especially the villages are so beautiful. But every country has their own charm, that's the beauty of being able to travel and play and connect with people on the street. That's what we love doing.
Do you have a Venmo or PayPal if people want to get in touch with you for donations to give you to continue?
Yeah, there's a Linktree one. I don't know whether I can send it to you or maybe later. If I think if you look at Markus K Linktree, it might even come up. That's got all the links. It's got YouTube, it's got Instagram, it's got Facebook, it's got PayPal, it's got Bandcamp, so people can find everything there. But if people just Google Markus K with blues, Markus K Blues, Markus is with a K in my name and also the surname is a K, then Google will throw up whatever you need, to be honest. You just got to go down the list a bit and find everything you want there, I think.
So you've been called a blues fusionist and a looper master, and you only using your voice and an old suitcase to create rich textures of music.
Yeah.
So when you're out there, when you're out there in the street, what are you using to play? What do you play with? I mean, besides you have a guitar, what other equipment do you use? And
Well, I've just recently changed my setup. Before I was using the Voice Live 3 as a looper and effect unit, and a wave drum, a cork wave drum for percussion. And that's what I create the loops with. And now I'm using Loopy Pro on iPad, and it's more efficient, and it gives me unlimited possibilities in terms of effects and looping and how I control them. So I play, for instance, I start off with a bass pattern on my guitar with an octave pedal. Then I flick the switch and it records it, flick the switch again, and it starts playing it back. Then on top of that, I might play some percussion or drum sounds. And then I've essentially created a groove for my song. So on top of that, I'll play my guitar and sing, and I improvise a lot. So it tends to come out differently. That's what I enjoy. I don't want to, I get bored with the same version. So I do it. That the looper gives you that option. You know, I mean, backing tracks that I've never enjoyed, so I don't use them at all, because then you're stuck to what you thought was good at a certain set time in the past. So I want to be able to play the blues how I feel it, and that's, you know, all the big names, they play it differently and they play it how they feel it, and that's what the looper allows me to do in my own way.
Well, yeah. Because the blues is a feeling that comes from the inside, and it's based on the circumstances, I would imagine, that you encounter as you're playing. So whatever comes up,
yes,
you just go with it.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know what's going to happen. You're playing in the street, so you have some control there, but it isn't like a concert hall or a gig in a club where you have people walking around, this and that. You never know what you're going to encounter on the street, so you just go with it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And every place has its own ambience, so I find myself playing different songs in different atmospheres, and you know, sometimes it's more laid back and sometimes a bit more rocky. It just depends on how I feel and how the response is. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to play. Because whatever comes up, you just go with it, and it's just like the flow. It's the blues.
Exactly.
The ebb and flow. Yeah.
And that's the beauty about the blues, as you've said already, because the songs are essentially very simple, usually, and those are the ones I like to write and jam on. The ones that are just a very simple idea, and then you can play them any way you like. You know, you can change the key, you can change the rhythm, you can change the feel completely. So it's all improvised.
So where are you now? Are you on because Australia has the East Coast and the West Coast. There isn't anything much in the middle. So you travel in between the West Coast and the East Coast?
We started off on the Gold Coast, just south of Brisbane, and we went to Brisbane, and then we're now traveling south. So we've gone via Byron Bay, and we just arrived in Coffs Harbour. And this is a great example. It's got 70,000 people, and we played yesterday for the first time, and the response is really good. There's a nice big open space with shade for me, and there's some cafes nearby, and I had a really good time, and I sold quite a few CDs and a USB stick. So it was one of the best, it's possibly the best session I've had in Australia, in a mid-sized town. So
you must have a large following wherever you go. You must have a large following. Like in Australia, you said you were going to go to New Zealand and maybe come back to Australia because you have a large following there. There are people, you've done this for so long, for 30 plus years, all over Europe and Scandinavia and Southeast Asia. So you must have a following that people will see you. They know who you are, and they're anxious to see you. They want, this is unique. What you do is totally.
Well, we do get more often now that people actually recognize me in the street, which is nice. Like, hey, Markus K. So I thought you were coming here, so I've been looking out for you. As to organizing a place for them to come and see us, it's difficult because I don't really know until I start playing whether it's going to work in that particular place. It might rain, or there might be police who's immediately going to tell me, you know. So if people want to come and see me, I usually invite them to give me a private message, and then we'll keep an eye on and we'll keep them informed as much as possible. And so, yeah, it happens more often now that people come to see, especially, and that's a really good thing, because there might be people we've been in touch with for like 3 or 4 years sometimes. And
I've been I've been following you for 3 years.
To meet them on the street, yeah. That's
every
really
time
good.
I share a video, it's I get the feedback. You know, I get the share. I get the feedback. This is remarkable. This is amazing. You know, I mean, it's because it's so unique. It's such a different approach to what you do. You're out in the street playing blues music as a busker in the street, but not just any street. I mean, you're traveling around the world doing this, and it's really fascinating. You know, I've followed you from country to country to country. It's just amazing. It really is.
Yeah. Well, that kind of keeps us going, to be honest. You know, the fact we love traveling anyway, but it helps the social media to people respond to. Oh, you were just in Japan, now you're in Australia, and I've got somebody, you know, I know somebody in Melbourne and things like that. So people interact in a different way, not just to the music, but also it's the combination of the music and the fact that we're traveling and playing on the street. That's the thing that people respond to.
How did the pandemic affect that, though? How did the pandemic affect you as far as doing? I mean, I know how the pandemic affected the general run of musicians and the clubs and the shutdown of this and that. But how did it affect? It must have affected you greatly because you couldn't travel. Yeah,
well, we were lucky because we were in Spain at the time. And to be honest, up until the police stopped everything, I thought, it'll blow over, because I'm like that, you know. And so on the Saturday, we played on the beach in the south of Spain. And Sunday, we came back to the same place, and it was all locked up, and the police are telling everyone to lock themselves up in their homes. So we drove straight to Olive Grove, which is like 6 hours further north. And that's where we spent the first lockdown period and also the second lockdown period. Just camping and connecting with people via Facebook more than anything. We did a lot of live sessions, Facebook live sessions. So that's what kept us going. And I wrote lots of new songs, and I recorded a whole new album. And so, in fact, it was a very creative time.
It seems that way because all of a sudden now, past year or two, it seems like there are people that wanted to record and wanted to tour, but since with COVID, nobody was able to do anything. But while they had the free time, well, whatever they had free time because they were shut down. It seems like a lot of work was done because a lot of releases, it seems like the floodgates opened a year or two ago, and everything's been pouring out, and there's people putting out 2 or 3 CDs in a year. It seems like there's a lot of material out there that people are finally trying to get out because they were working on it during the shutdown remotely with other people in their homes, you know, whatever way they could find a way to do it. So, like yourself, you had music that came out, and it seems like a lot of people did too because they had that time that they didn't expect to have, and they could put time and effort into it. And all of a sudden, I've been getting a lot of music here to review that seems like the floodgates have just opened up, you know? Yeah. And it's a good thing. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of people, when a big shift like that happens, it depends on how you respond to it, you know? So if you're proactive and you make the best of it, some really good things can come out. So that's how we try and approach them. So it wasn't a disaster for us at all. In fact, it was a way for us we had to rest a bit more, and it was good for us. So, and now we're ready to travel again.
Yeah, I mean, as bad as it was, and I've asked a few musicians, I've asked Shamika Copeland this, and I've asked Ronica Lewis this, and I've asked a few other people. As bad as it was, and we were all shut down, some good did come out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some good. Social media went crazy, and I think a lot of people that were glued to social media found people that they never would have ordinarily found had it been had been wide open.
Yes, I agree.
And people like you, that there was the people that didn't know you found you like I did. People that were doing shows on YouTube and Facebook suddenly had an audience, and there were a lot of people that now are making a living because of social media and putting out. I think in a way, as much as it hurt, and a lot of people suffered from it on the bad end of it, I think on the other end of it, I think it did a little bit of good because it gave recognition to people that never would have found a voice without it. You know?
I think that's always the case with a shift. If there's a big shift, then new things get the chance, cracks opening up, and new things appear. So yeah, it can be a good thing.
You have to look
I wouldn't look for it, but yeah, definitely, I agree.
There has to be some kind of, you have to be able to. This is bad because I worked for Can't Stop the Blues during the shutdown, and a great group of people, and they did a lot of good for during the pandemic, and other people did too. There were a lot of shows out there that kept people glued to social media and kept them going, and it was it was a fascinating community then. It's still a fascinating community now because I still keep everybody still keeps in touch, and they're sharing videos and they're watching people perform, and there's people posting things on YouTube and Facebook. So it generated some good because it's still going. People watching you, people watching other people are still doing it. It's great. It's great.
I agree.
So where do you go? From here? How long? How long are you gonna stay where you are now?
Well, this is a typical day. We're gonna play as soon as we finish the interview. There's a market going on here, and there's a bit of shade, so we'll set up and play, and then we decide whether we're going to spend another day here or not. So we've got two options: to spend the night here, or there's a bus at 4 o'clock to the next place further down south, which is called Port Macquarie, I think, something like that. The names are all different here.
Yeah.
And then from there, we'll go to Newcastle and Sydney, probably spend New Year and Christmas in the Sydney area where we've got house sitting jobs. So that's going to save us a lot of money for 10 days where we don't have to pay for hotels. So Sydney is probably a good place to spend that time and do some busking. And so it'll be good.
Yeah, years ago, my father did some work in Sydney. He loved Sydney. He was there on business.
Yeah.
But he loved it there. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's our first time in Australia, so we really enjoy it.
So tonight, when you said you're gonna go to you'll sleep, where do you sleep tonight? Where do you sleep? In a van?
Well, in Europe it's a van. Here we don't have a van, so we're looking for something to rent, possibly. But now we're just looking for a hotel, whatever is the cheapest, and that's part of the struggle right now because it's expensive every day. So the struggle is to make enough on the street to actually pay for the hotel. So.
And you make enough money to support yourself and fly from place to place like that. That generally you do well enough to do that. I mean, you must. You've been doing this for decades. So I mean,
yeah, in general, it always works out in the long run. The Bandcamp is definitely helping us a lot. We sell a lot of CDs and USB sticks every month, and Facebook is also helping us, which is a big surprise, because the videos, every now and again we get another one that goes a bit viral, and the adverts, we make money from that. This started in December last year, 1 year ago, where we had a viral video in Almeria in Spain. A lot of people might have seen that one of my songs. And suddenly we went over a certain threshold, and then we could have adverts in our videos.
Right.
And they actually make money. So every month, and they are what allows us to travel, to pay for buses and that kind of thing, and flight every now and again.
I'm just fascinated by what you do, how you do it, why you do it, where you do it. It's just fascinating to me. I mean, I've been following you for a number of years, and it's as have many people around the world, obviously. And I just find it fascinating that you're such an accomplished musician, and you're out there on the street playing this incredible music, and these people are just following you and finding you, and the people that you encounter. You never know who's going, like what happened in Japan, what happened in India. You never know what's going to come up. And we watch this on video, and we're just intrigued by the whole thing, you know.
Well, I'm really happy about that. Yeah, yeah.
You don't know. You know.
No, I don't know.
No.
And that's a very important part of why I do it, because I get bored quickly with doing things the same way. So I always push myself to write new songs. Quite often I'll just improvise something completely from scratch. And most of the time we record and film with the camera, with the mobile phone. And then so like last night we had a look at what we did yesterday, and then there was one version I particularly liked of a JJ Cale song, Clyde. So we're doing a video of that. And then Marga has footage of the surroundings, people responding, etc. So she puts the two together. I do the mix, the music mix, and then she puts the two angles of video together. And so that's a big incentive for me to improve every day musically. That's what I love about playing on the streets. If you do concert with a band, you can improvise to some extent, especially with the blues, but you are much more stuck to a certain set list, for instance. I never use a set list. I just start playing, and I have no idea where it's going to go, whether I'm going to do some of the favorites or none of the favorites or all of the favorites.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, like the one with the Japanese popping dancer. It's an old blues song, Stop Breaking Down. And I said, we'll do something funky. And I played a funky beat. And then what am I going to do? So, Stop Breaking Down came in my head. And so it became a completely different version of a song, which I've been playing for a long time. And that's the beauty about the blues, you know. It's you can completely reinvent a song like that because it's so simple.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that keeps me going, you know, the fact that I'm improving all the time. And I wish I'd started when I was 18 on the street.
The reinvention of the blues lately, the past few years, has been extraordinary because all these people, are, men and women, and we call them the next gens, the 20-somethings that are coming out and reinventing blues music, completely taking it, changing it, adding to it, adding this and that to it. It's good. It's moving it forward. They're keeping the traditions alive on one end of it, but they're used to going in another direction on the other end and moving it forward. It's really amazing. There's so many people out there trying to, doing so many amazing things with the music. Like yourself. We really appreciate, we really appreciate the videos. We really do. We like following you around. It's great. my Facebook page is filled with your videos, and I share them.
Great.
So it's very cool. I was looking at some this morning, so it's very cool. So
well, thank you for sharing them around. That helped. That's where the viral comes from. You know, when people start sharing it around, suddenly there's a whole new set of people who will find it, and of course that's great for us.
The feedback has been great. The shares have been amazing. I always get feedback from when I post something, and then I share it on different Facebook sites, and I get the comments are. I said, you should check out his other videos. I said, go on YouTube and check out, and Facebook, and check out all the other things he's been doing. He's been traveling around the world for years. I said, you need to see all his other music. I said, this is just one step, one step in a long journey, folks. So
excellent. Very good. Thank you very much for doing that.
No, it's been great. Thank you. Well, thank you. We really appreciate your time. We do.
Same here. Yeah. Thank you very much.
The North Jersey Blues Society tonight here on the East Coast, and where Markus is, he's in Australia right now. It's morning, and we don't want to hold him up too long because we know he has to get back and do his busking for And if you have not checked out Markus, please check out his many videos on Facebook and YouTube, and check out his Bandcamp. And he has a lot of albums out, and his Spotify channel has 1,500 listeners every month. He has multiple EPs, over 30 singles on Apple Music. He travels around the world doing blues music, and you never know what you'll find on the videos. I definitely urge everyone to check him out as often as possible. And he's just an amazing and accomplished musician, and we're grateful for what he does as he travels around the world, sharing the love of music with the world. So, Markus, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for your time and for promoting what we're doing. So, yeah, it's been a real pleasure.
No, it's been a pleasure finally getting to talk to you. This is fascinating. Thank you so much.
Likewise.
I hope you have a good time in Australia. Happy holidays and a Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much, and you have a good night. You the same too.
Good luck out there.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.